Before this video starts, if you enjoyed this video, there are many more like it already on the channel with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 125,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload daily on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is a place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference. So today, I wanted to talk about an interesting topic, which is, what is the 2021 season going to actually look like? Because after the bubble ended in Orlando, there was a lot of question marks because there's still like what's happening next, basically. Question marks, that's what that means. And we don't really know how the season's going to return. We don't have an exact timeline, and we don't know when off-season stuff is actually happening, when the draft stuff is actually happening. I think draft stuff was like determined for late October, early November, but that's not a set date. Nothing is really a set date. In terms of the off-season, what kind of moves are going to happen? Should we expect anything big? I don't think anything big's going to happen, so there's my first prediction, unless you consider like a Russell Westbrook trade big, or a Chris Paul trade big. I guess it could be big depending on where Chris Paul goes, like if it's the Milwaukee Bucks or the Los Angeles Lakers, but outside of those two scenarios, I don't think any big trade really happens. I don't think Russell Westbrook to the Knicks would be big. It would just be the Knicks being the Knicks and the Rockets being still screwed. So that's the offseason stuff. Draft-wise, I mean, this draft class has been talked about a good amount, and I'm certainly not the best draft guy out there, but it doesn't seem like this draft class is going to be that significant. So off-season stuff really isn't actually going to be that crazy. Likely anyways, you never know. The NBA is always one to surprise you with some bonkers shit, but off-season, probably nothing significant happens. So what is the next season going to look like in terms of another bubble, in terms of what teams are going to be good, how the bubble might impact a long-term regular season, when the NBA will be able to have games in person again, if that's going to happen in this season. A lot of this has to do with the virus. I'm not going to say its name so I don't get demonetized, but there's not an exact timeline on that either. When is there going to be a cure that's going to make it capable to have public events like NBA games again? I would like to go to another NBA game, but it seems like it's going to be a long time before that happens. I live 2 hours from the Charlotte Hornets, and I was actually planning on consistently going there to watch games from here on out because I have the resources to do so, but after I went to see the Bucks play the Hornets and Giannis put up 40 and 20, after that game, season got shut down. So I didn't get to go see the Lakers or the Clippers like I was planning to, but hopefully that's something I'll be able to do eventually. So when is the season going to be back? It seems like, I think they said like middle of January, something like that. This offseason is going to be a little bit shorter than it traditionally is. I don't know if there's even going to be a summer league. Is that going to happen? Is the season going to be shortened, or are we going to get a full 82 games? And if so, how's that going to affect schedules in the long term? But all those are really questions that I can't answer because we haven't been given anything close to an answer yet. It's just like, we'll probably have this when it happens, we'll have that when it happens. Also, what's the salary cap looking like? Because like I'm seeing things like Christian Wood's just going to take a mid-level exception, and I think that's a horrible idea for how talented he is. But maybe because of the fact that the salary cap, people don't really know where it is, maybe it's likely going to be down. Maybe he's just like, look, I'll take $9 million now, and I'll try to get a bigger contract when the salary cap has figured itself out. That's going to affect free agents this offseason. Maybe the Clippers are going to be able to get back Montrezl Harrell on a relatively cheap deal in comparison to what he actually is because of this offseason. So the whole lot of questions is basically my point. I really don't know what this season is going to look like. And in terms of actually getting 30 teams in a bubble, that's going to be difficult. I feel like it's already a miracle that there were no cases in the bubble with, what was it? The 8 teams in the playoffs, and there was like 6 more on top of that. I think it was like 22 teams. Yeah, something like that. That was with 8 teams absent, and that's a couple hundred more people when you're adding those teams along with the players, the staff, the coaching, the trainers, all of that shit. So that's more people, more security. Is there enough room in that location in Orlando? I don't really know the layout of it. That's not really been described all that well. It just seems to be a bunch of hotels, but is there enough hotels? So that's a thing to pull off. Actually managing to keep it to 0 cases throughout an 82 game season seems almost impossible. I mean, it seemed possible that what happened in Orlando originally could have happened, and it did. So credit where credit is due. I believe Adam Silver deserves a whole lot of credit for pulling off the Orlando bubble and everyone else working within the NBA that made that happen. Every staff member, every member of a team except for like Lou Williams, everyone who did their job and made sure that the bubble was safe and everyone was able to do what they were supposed to do, and they were able to actually crown an NBA champion. After the season was shut down initially like 7 months ago, it seemed like it'd be impossible for there to be an actual champion, and they managed to pull it off. When I first heard about the bubble idea, I was like, this is probably not going to go well, but in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, but I really want to watch basketball, so I'm kind of going to ignore all the red flags here. But the red flags weren't really a big deal. So maybe they can pull this off, the 82-game season, if that's what they do. Maybe it like gets cut halfway through and a cure is discovered and no longer do there need to be bubble games, and we can go back to games in arenas. That transition would certainly be interesting after players have gotten used to across the board, like just playing in a bubble setting. You're gonna have to let them have their families in there as well, because like 3 months away is one thing, a whole 80-game plus season is going to be a whole nother conversation. So there's that. Basically, I'm just asking a million questions and not answering anything, but what I think I can answer, or at least give some speculation on, is how good teams are going to be, what the outcome's going to be. So I've already said my pick to win the championship next year is the Lakers, but let me talk about some other teams. So I'm gonna do a video on some of these teams I'm talking about right now, but I don't want to go too in depth. So I made a video on the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think they're going to be as amazing as people think they are. I imagine they're going to be like a 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, and I mean, I could see them making a finals, but I do not see them winning a championship versus the Lakers. I honestly think the Bucks are a better team than them, just due to injury factors and the potential inner turmoil within that locker room. The fact that there is a mutiny with Kenny Atkinson does not leave a whole lot of room to be optimistic. The Golden State Warriors. You know, I initially thought like, oh yeah, the Warriors are going to be back. It's going to be no issue. But I was watching some scrimmage from their like role players on Twitter the other day. I don't know why I'm always so addicted to basketball that I can watch 5 minutes of a bunch of scrubs playing. But I realized as I was watching this, these scrubs are like 80% of the team. Like, Steph and Clay are great. Draymond Green isn't what he used to be, but he's still pretty good. But the rest of this team is really bad. And I'm not sure what next season's really going to look like for this team, because I don't know how they improve outside of trading that pick, and I don't think a rookie's going to make a huge difference, and I don't know that you can really trade for anything that great with that pick. Andrew Wiggins, I do not think is going to be good. I wouldn't be shocked if he was all right, but I don't think he's going to be good. And to top that all off, like, Eric Pascal, I have no fucking clue. I don't think he's very good. I think a lot of Warriors fans are overrating him. I think he's just a trade chip, honestly, because he doesn't work with Draymond Green whatsoever, and Draymond's obviously better. And Eric, I just think, is the perfect example of a guy who is like, well, somebody has to shoot the ball. And he wasn't bad, but I don't think he's more than just a pretty good NBA player. And outside of that, I don't see how they really improve the overall depth with the Warriors. They don't really have a cap space type thing. So Warriors are in a weird spot, and I don't know if they're actually going to be able to really solidify themselves as contenders again. Steph Curry really has to have a 2016-like season, but even then, the supporting cast in 2016 was phenomenal. So I think the Warriors are probably only going to be like a 50-win team and like the 5th seed in the West. I cut back to when they proved me wrong. There's going to be a whole lot of predictions in this video, and most of them are going to be wrong. The Bucks, I think, are finally going to make the finals. That could be a hot take, but I think they're going to make some shifts. I don't know exactly what those are. I saw that they were interested in Bogey, the one from the Kings, not the Jazz. But I don't know how they're getting him with their limited cap space, unless they're doing a sign and trade for like Eric Bledsoe or something, which I don't know why the Kings would be interested in that. So that's probably not going to happen, but I imagine they're not going to sit idly by with Giannis having 1 year left on his deal. So I think they're going to finally make that push into the finals. Outside of that, John Wall is back. Maybe the Wizards are going to be a playoff team again. That's another video that I'm going to be doing with this week. But I think this season, I think King of the Fourth Quarter said this, and we did say this about last season, but then a whole lot of factors really interrupted that being possible. I think this is going to be one of the best seasons in NBA history. There's a whole lot of teams that can really be a threat again, and I think that's going to lead to some great games. Like in the East, there are 3 teams that I think could make the finals, which is the Bucks, the Nets, and the Heat. In the West, there is the Lakers, the Clippers, even though people like making fun of them, and for good reason, but them, the Clippers, the Warriors, probably. And then I would not even be shocked if the Dallas Mavericks got in there and Luka took his game to a whole nother level and they were in contention. If they add just a little bit more defense, I could really see that team competing for a championship. I'm not even kidding. So that was 7 teams I said that I think has a real shot at the championship. So that's interesting. The Denver Nuggets even, make that 8. They could get there, especially with the whole season of Michael Porter and Jamal Murray playing like this for a whole season or something close to it. That's definitely a whole lot of teams that I could feasibly see winning a championship. And that is huge. And that is... I mean, it's going to be a lot of parity. I still am picking the Lakers as the best team and the championship team for this season, but I don't think it's going to be an easy road, just like it wasn't for them this year, even though some people acted like it was. So my predictions playoff-wise for next season is Bucks-Lakers finals, Lakers win, but I think it's going to be real competitive. I'm interested to see what the NBA manages to pull off in terms of a second bubble situation with all 30 NBA teams. I don't think there's going to be any big offseason moves. There will be some things here or there, but unless Chris Paul gets traded to a contender, nothing that significant is really going to happen. And draft stuff, there's not much to say there. And the Warriors, I feel like they might disappoint some people. So those are my rough predictions. If you want to support this content outside of just your like and subscription, I have a Patreon where you can get some extra content over there and support me along the way. Go check out my Uncharted 4 video or I will cut your nuts off. And that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this and cue the outro music.